Brush hogging, or bush hogging, whichever you prefer to call it, is something that there always seems to be a demand for. No matter where you are, there always seem to be people out there wanting their property brush hogged to keep the growth down, keep trees from popping up, to keep it nice and clean. Whether you do this commercially or on the side, it can be profitable if you do this right. But there are some things to watch out for, especially if you're doing a new field for the first time. In this video, we're going to take a look at three things. The first being what pattern you choose when mowing a field, which is most efficient, which is best, depending on the way the field lays. Also, we're going to look at some things to really watch out for when mowing a field, things that keep you safe, things to keep your machine from breaking. And also, we're going to look at some cost issues that a lot of people don't consider when they charge on jobs like this. My name is Chad. This is Excavation Revelation, the place where excavating strategies are revealed and different topics are discussed. Today, as I mentioned, we're going to look at brush hogging a new field for the first time. Naturally, before you even leave, you want to make sure you go over your equipment to make sure it's all going to be running properly. You want to check all your fluids in your tractor, especially your fuel. Make sure that it's adequate. It's going to be enough for the job that you have coming up. You want to make sure that all your guards and covers are in place on your tractor and on your brush hog. Make sure your blades are sharp enough. Make sure all your fittings are greased properly, especially your U-joints. There's a lot of wear and tear that goes on with these when you're mowing. Take a look at your tires. Make sure they've got the proper air and that there are no cuts or snags that might be an issue. Once you get to the field, they might become flat. Just go over all these things, your lights in your tractor. You want to be as safe as possible. You don't want to lose any downtime once you get to the field. If you're hauling your machine, it's going to be a little bit different. You'll have a truck there. You'll have access to tools. You can go get something if need be. But if you're roading your tractor to the job, you want to make sure all this has gone over real fine to make sure that it's going to save you time once you get there. You're not being stuck in the middle of this field, broken down, or have to call somebody to come out and help you. Let's look at establishing your pattern for mowing this field for the first time. Now, you might have spent some time kind of researching the project beforehand. You might have gone out and looked at it, or if not, you might have gone on Google Earth or viewed a satellite image to see how the field looks, to see what obstacles you might be encountering, and also seeing what the terrain's like. If it's a long field, if it's a square field, kind of like this one, if it's steep. There are a lot of variables there, and the more you research and go about this, it'll help you when deciding what pattern you're going to go with. It's usually best to start out with your pattern by just going around the perimeter. Get it established. See where the property boundaries are, and just hug them. Go along the whole outside of the property. Get everything boxed in. Usually 3 to 4 passes will work for this. Whether you're using a 5-foot brush hog that's mounted on a 3-point hitch or a bigger 15-20 foot batwing mower, either way, 3 or 4 passes is usually pretty adequate to get around the perimeter and help get the boundary marked out and established. This will also give you some room at the end, whichever pattern you choose to go with, to make your turns and to get back cutting again. Once you make your boundary passes and you get a better feel for how the field is, usually it makes sense to go with the long distance of your field. If it's more rectangular, go with the long distance. Otherwise, if you're going the short distance across back and forth, this is going to be a lot of turns at the end and you're going to lose time. Some guys prefer to just keep doing that box in pattern, just keep going around the edges and working your way into the center. While this does work, it's not always most efficient. And also, if you're using a bigger batwing mower, these sharp corners that you're making consistently at each corner adds a lot of extra wear and tear. Every time that tractor and that mower bind, it's really hard on the PTO and on the drivetrain, and you're burning extra fuel, but you're also making it more susceptible to have breakdowns. You want to make sure you're making nice gradual turns to save your machine. If you have a 3-point hitch brush hog, it's not going to be as big of a deal at the end making a sharp corner. You can just simply raise it up a little bit so your edges aren't catching, you're not scraping when you're turning. But usually it works better if you're doing longer passes. To make a nice straight pass, choose an object at the other end of the field, such as this pine tree in the center here, and keep your eyes mainly focused on that when you're traveling across the field making your initial pass inside the field. This will help keep you straight and help keep your cut parallel. Once you're going across there, you get to the end, you're going to be making a nice gradual turn to come back and start your next pass. If you can see here as I'm marking this out, it's a circular, or more of an oval pattern I should say, that you're doing this. You're on the outside and you're keeping the same turning radius at the end of the field each time, and you're working your way over on your next pass. By doing it this way, you'll be working across the field in a nice uniform manner, and you'll be getting everything covered as you go. You're not turning too sharp at the end, creating extra wear and tear. It's just a nice uniform turn that you're making. You're not spending a lot of time outside the field either, turning. Then once this section is complete, you do the same process. You move down, you choose a starting point, and you start splitting that section and do the same oval pattern again. Let's take a look at now things to look at while you're brush hogging and things to watch out for. Essentially things that can make or break your job if you make out in the green or in the red. Obviously you want to try to make out in the green, so you really want to be careful, watch out for these things. It all starts when you first get the call from the homeowner. Ask them questions about the field. Ask them if there are a lot of stumps. Ask them if there are rocks. Ask them if there are springs, wet spots, sinkholes, if there is any pipe that goes through the field like a French drain or a culvert. Hopefully they can provide you with some good solid information. They know a little bit about the field. They know what to look for, watch out for. But sometimes that's not the case. You might, in a sense, be going into this completely blind. They might not know anything about it. So you just really want to take it slow in this case. You're always keeping your head on a swivel, looking in front of you where the tractor's going to see if there's a drop-off or a hole where you might all of a sudden drop into. Also looking things to steer around and avoid. You're also looking beside you, kind of eyeing up the next pass. Sometimes when you're going straight ahead, it's going to be harder to see in front of you. If you're looking out it to the side, you've got a better view to look through the grass, through the tall weeds to see more what's in there. You can kind of tell right away sometimes if you're hitting rocks real quick that you might be in for a long day. It might be a field full of rocks. But sometimes there's just one or two here and there that kind of sneak up on you. You really got to watch out for them. If they're bigger, they'll be easier to see. Even a stump is going to be big. But it's the smaller ones or the smaller stumps even that can really cause damage quickly. They're going to be much harder to spot. Now this field is getting brush hogged. Some of these saplings could be taken care of with this batwing, but in this case it's not really going to pay. Yeah, it'll cut down these bigger saplings, but at the same time it's going to leave a little stump sticking up, and that's not going to help anybody in the future. It's not going to help you if you come back to mow this. It's not going to help the landowner. If you leave the bigger saplings, they can come in with a tractor or something, or truck even, in a chain to pull that out, get that all taken care of. It's sometimes better just to avoid things like this. You're not really clearing, in a sense you're mowing, so keep that in mind when you're brush hogging. Plus, the bigger the tree, the bigger the brush, the more it's going to weigh on your tractor and on your machine, taking out chunks of your blade. We're just providing extra wear and tear. Again, yes, this brush hog can handle something like that, but it's usually not worth it. You want to have your seatbelt on, even if it seems like a really flat field, because you never know if you're going to blow a tire or get in a bad spot where the tractor is suddenly wanting to tip over. It's also a good idea to wear eye protection, even if you're in a closed cab, and hearing protection as well. Over time, these can really save you. It's always that 1 in a million rocket flies up that hits somebody that they wish they had their glasses on, or over time, if not wearing ear protection, their hearing is going to get worse and worse. It's just the little things that you can do to make sure this is all preventative. You want to keep your speed nice and slow mowing a field for the first time for a couple reasons. For one, you're going to get a better cut. This field, for example, has a lot of briars in it. And to get them taken care of, you want to go nice and slow to make sure they're chopped up nice and fine. Also, if you go slow, you have more time to react, to stop the tractor, to steer around something, or to adjust if need be. You always want to keep your feet ready to push the clutch in, push the brake in, and be able to stop in an instant if you need to. You also want to be keeping your one hand free down by the lever to be able to raise up your mower if you start hearing it hitting a rock or a stump or something bad. The faster you react to something like this, the better off you're going to be, and the better it's going to be for your machine. Just keep that in mind. It can be tempting to just be cruising through the field, kind of half paying attention, but you always want to keep your hand and your feet ready to stop or adjust when something pops up that you can't see at all. It's going to be pretty boring going really slow, but it's going to be so worth it. Just one instance, one rock, one stump is all it takes to really mess up your brush hog and ruin your day, and essentially take away all your profit. Flat tire too. If you're going over something you shouldn't be, you just want to avoid that. So go nice and slow to avoid blowing tires, beating up your machines. Obstacles such as old gas wells or old water wells are possible too. They can be sometimes very simple, just a little piece of casing pipe sticking up out of the ground. Usually it's brown, it's rusted, it's faded. They can be very hard to see, and they can really mess up your day. The landowner might not be aware that they are there, and it's by you going through their property or be able to figure it out for them, and hopefully you can see this and get it marked for the future. If you do come across an obstacle that you should really get out of there or mark for the future, just take your time, stop the tractor. If it's a rock, get it out of there. If it's a hole, mark it. You can sometimes use your phone and just drop a pin on it to remember where that is. It could be something you're just trying to tell the landowner about in the future, or it can be just something that needs fixed. But by you marking it, knowing right where it is, you can come back to it real quickly then and adjust it in the future before you have to come back in the field and brush hog it again. I have neglected to do this before. It's been hard. You think you remember, but then you get back in the field and have no idea where it is, or forget about it completely, and you encounter it again. Usually it's just so worth it to just stop and take care of it, whether you're marking it or getting it cleared, and just do it that time and be done with it. You could then move on and not have to worry about it. Now let's take a look at some costs that some people don't always think about. Usually when you price a job like this or bid it out, you're thinking best case scenario. You're maybe giving yourself a little bit of cushion to make out in case it takes you a little longer than expected, but you're not always thinking about these issues that could come up and really cost you in the long run. One of these issues is if you get stuck. What happens if you get stuck? Chances are that the homeowner is not going to have something big enough to pull you out with. If you are a commercial company, it's not as big of a deal. You can contact one of your employees or a coworker and they can come help you out, but there's still going to be some downtime there getting this tractor pulled out, getting things recovered. Also, you might have some ruts then to fill in and fix up for the landowner that aren't going to just sit there forever and collect with water. But also, you want to consider if you're out there by yourself just doing this on the side and you get stuck, what are you going to do? You're going to need to have a plan B in effect, somebody you can call and contact, but chances are you're going to have to pay somebody to come pull you out, and that's really going to take away from your profit. You also need to consider and keep an eye out for fence wire that might be down in the field. Deer are really good at going through a wire fence, high tensile, and knocking it down and just leaving a mess everywhere. And this can get wrapped up in your brush hog really fast and stop you really quick. It's going to take a lot of time to get that dug out, time that you didn't really calculate for or want to spend doing this, or it could potentially break something. So keep an eye out for wire too, and keep that in mind that you could get wrapped up real quick. Also, if you cut or slash a tire, this could be very costly, especially if it's a rear tractor tire. They're obviously the biggest and most expensive, and pretty often they have calcium in them, and you're going to have to contact, most times, a tire repair guy, which is going to take time and money for them to come out and fix your tire for you. So just keep this in mind. Fuel is another cost that you need to keep in mind. It seems like these days the price of diesel just keeps going up and up. So you want to make sure that you're covering your cost, your travel time, your brush hogging time, all this as far as your fuel. So those are the three main points: finding an efficient pattern to run, looking out for obstacles and how to go about them, and also some extra costs that you might encounter that you don't always think about. Hopefully that all makes sense. Feel free to leave a comment if there's something you want discussed further, or leave a comment if you have a story about an adventure you've had brush hogging a field for the first time.